after watching a video in the last hour or so, I've again come across something which I hate hearing, and I don't like it. I never have liked the way some people put this out there. And to be honest, you know who you people are. You know who you people are? The three-letter word that I always keep saying, not three-letter, three-word utterance that I call these people, who, to be honest, make my fandom and desire to keep watching wrestling almost a living hell every single time I'm basically anywhere near them online. They are the Attitude Era nutjobs. Because after Raw last night, I can understand your hatred. I can understand your desire to vent, just like I did this morning. But I keep noticing and hearing it, more or less, every time I go around the places online. And there's one person who I respect and care about as a wrestling reviewer. NJ of the British Fist. Now, your video, WWE equals what wrestling entertainment? That video has gotten me slightly angry here tonight because, again, the statement that you put out there basically got me a little bit ticked off. That the WWF and the WWE are different. And that, to me, is a bit wrong. In fact, it's not just wrong, it's ridiculous. Now, I don't want to lose the friendship we have here over this, but then again, it's your opinion versus mine. I'll say what I want to, we'll see how things go. Because I honestly hate that saying, that they're both different. It's just an acronym with an E instead of an F. Because to me, the company, sure, has changed since the Attitude Era. But the fact is, wrestling changes. Wrestling always changes. The wrestling in the 80s is not the same as it is today. That's how everything works. In fact, the fact is that wrestling began as a fucking circus sideshow in state fairs. It was not a huge attraction. It got a small following. It then lost after finding out that people finding out it was fake. You then see it turn into a full-blown athletic competition with extra elements. You then get through bloodbaths in the 50s and 60s and 70s. Then you, of course, along with that, have great technical wrestling along the side, the springing of superstardom that came from it as a national territory sport. You then reach sports entertainment. Huzzah! It goes through cycles to where we are today. And I have to say that just because WWE has gone through a slump in the last 2 or 3 years, which is having a hard time digging itself out of, you've got to think for a second. What's happening here is the exact same as what the WWF have had to endure and experience. Because after the rock and roll wrestling connection of the 80s, around about 91, 92, 93, stuff started petering off for them. They were under immense scrutiny from the steroid trial. They were losing guys to WCW almost at every turn. And people just were not liking the product at all. They decided to do what a lot of people have been saying they're going to do this week, and watch the competition, because they believe it's better. You think that they went and had to suffer through all that. They then went to the Attitude Era and got a lot of that fan base back. And in my opinion, the Attitude Era did not end until around 2007. Because that was about the last time I can possibly remember where they actually still took risks. Where you said they have blood, they super take risks, a lot of epic stuff going on. Because that was where it was. A lot of stuff could happen. Unpredictability all over the place. You could sense it. And I honestly think that the Attitude Era as it ended is at this point now where we are again in a stage where the fans are a bit they don't really see the same thing as they used to. But again, you can keep complaining about it. But the fact is, to put it away in this bluntly, we're in the same space as WWF was in the mid-90s, where they have an image they need to rebuild. They are trying to keep themselves afloat because things are starting to go downhill, and it is just a transitionary phase. They've suffered the same thing. It's the same company, no matter what you say. And I remember you saying to me in this video, NJ, that they were appealing to kids around the time when the brand extension happened. Hell, a lot of the stuff they did when the brand extension happened between 2002 and roughly that time I mentioned when I believe the Attitude Era ended, there was a lot of stuff that would not be considered kid-friendly, but the kids watched it regardless. The fact is, the audience that made up the Attitude Era grew through that. There has to be a place for kids to start, and wrestling can appeal to anyone. Kids will watch it because their parents might find it disgusting, but of course, you get bitten by the bug, you want more. That's one of the beauties of wrestling. It doesn't matter if you're a kid and you watch and go, ooh, this is interesting. Because to me, like most sport, it is an entertainment. Because football, I go to the football, I hear a lot of people saying that, this is awful. Especially with me being an Ipswich fan, you can entirely sense my point. That, yeah, this football's awful. And they were saying, we don't want to watch anymore because it's not entertaining. You are like those, actually quite a lot of people, well, not you specifically, NJ, but you kind of know who I'm pointing at in this regard, are saying, oh, this isn't the same as it was before, this is awful, rah! And industry goes through change all the time. And the fact is, WWE has had a really bad image. The WWF and the WWE had a bad image, and the Attitude Era really helped compound that bad image. Because you honestly think about it, the blood everywhere, the sex and violence, you then also get the Eddie Guerrero and Chris Benoit deaths, which, to be honest, made the WWE want to bloody reinvent themselves. Because they don't want to have the feds breathing down their neck. They don't want to see people turning away because they believe it's too much for them. I know fans would stay and watch it until Kingdom Come, but at the same time, it has to be done. Wrestling goes through image changes and transitions as it does, evolve with the times. And it's annoying how some people will say, oh, this is not a bloodbath, violence all over the place, and we got what we have today, that's different, therefore it's shit. Because I've evolved with the times. I can still watch wrestling and not be bothered. I can watch an episode like Raw last night, and that's still the optimism that watching SmackDown Friday, watching Raw next week, there could be something better. Because I'm a person who will not turn off if something gets that bad. Because wrestling has gone through shit, and I'm willing to stick by it, because I'm a loyal fan. But the fact is, I don't know, it's just the fact that this image that WWE have had to make is not of their own doing. It is of their own doing, because they've had to instigate it. Shawn Michaels said about the PG and the kid-friendly nature of the show that's recently come on, that the networks said the image of him, blood pouring off his face at the knees of Chris Jericho at the Great American Bash 2008, was something that they didn't want wrestling to be of. And Shawn Michaels even admitted that was not what the direction he wanted wrestling to go in. And to be honest with you, if you hear that from Shawn Michaels, then that's definitely something you need to put into consideration. Things have changed. There's no blood. Little bits, but not much of it. You don't see guys taking risks anymore. There's a reason why you don't see guys taking risks anymore, because they want longer careers. They don't want to die. They don't want to get head injuries and be like the NFL footballers who have lost memory, who have led themselves to suicide. They don't want to do that. Sure, it's not good for entertainment purposes on our end, but knowing that they're taking care of themselves when they've got no widespread health insurance, no unions to support them, that is a good thing. And I know as our entertainment, we want to see them take risks, but if they're willing to take a risk, they will do it. Just because it's not being done 24/7 does not require people to complain about it and say it's different. It's the same company, because there was no major risks being taken in the mid-90s when they just played fail-safe and just put the horse on autopilot and see where it goes. The same thing's being done here. We have the same guys at the top, with a couple of new faces springing through. And that was exactly the same in the mid-90s, where we have a few major guys at the top who we know, and we've got some other guys who are springing up to that level, just chugging along, occasionally changing one or two when they leave. That's what happened in the mid-90s. That's what's happening now. To me, that isn't different. That's the exact same. That is nothing different. It is the exact fucking same. And I hate these people who complain saying that it is different just because of a name difference, therefore means content difference. It's the same. Honestly. And I can put this out here, this statement, as bluntly as I can. But you mentioned Batista, a guy who left due to the content of the show currently. Fact is, in my opinion, if you can't evolve with wrestling, then you do not deserve to continue in it. Because what Batista did was childish. The guys, like Shawn Michaels, for example, he came into wrestling during the Rock and Wrestling connection with the Rockers. He then decided to shed that cartoonish looking appearance he had with the ridiculously on-pro hair and those tassels and going a bit happy crazy all over the place. He decided to add himself a little bit of image, to change himself and make himself rise up a bit. He did that. He, of course, was not well liked back then, as you know. He stuck with becoming a technical wrestler in a time when people like Bulldog, Mr. Perfect, Bret Hart, those guys were coming through. He didn't want to just be the flamboyant guy on appearance like you were in the 80s. He wanted to be a good wrestler. You then get to the mid-90s in the Attitude Era, when it just started to turn to the Attitude Era. He then turned from that to being very rude, very crass, and in your face. He then gets injured, comes back in 2002. He is different, very different guy, where he does things he never thought he could do, which back then he would have never done. He would have never put people over. He then decides to help the youth of the industry, which years ago he didn't decide to put down. And then, once the PG era comes around, he adopts to DX, tones it down a little bit, because he knows obviously with his Christian notion, he can't do the crotch chop, but he can still do the X sign, and he basically makes their antics, which were pranking. To be honest, DX pranked people, and DX still does. It's just a different way of terming it. Shawn Michaels adapted himself over the years and has made himself a legend over it. Edge did the exact same. He went from the long blonde-haired crazy dude jumping off ladders to a guy who is a rated R superstar who will do anything, and I mean anything, including a live sex celebration, to a guy who wrestled who would wrestle with fantastic matches with being respected all around. He changed with the times because it had to be done. And to be honest with you, Hulk Hogan also changed with the times, but not very much. He got rid of his gigantic, well, his ego is still there, it's just the personality shifted into being a jackass rather than being a hero. The fact is, Bruno Sammartino didn't change with the industry. He loved it in the 70s, with the regions and the attention to just it being wrestling, with no melodrama. But then again, the industry changed, melodrama factored in as part of the entertainment, as part of the spectacle, much like how our sport news channels at the moment being full of John Terry sleeping with Wayne Bridges' wife, or him in a racism scandal, or something stupid than comes of contract signings. That's part of football's melodrama. What we have is what we have. And he didn't like that. He thought, oh, this is awful. This is awful. This is not what I want. But then again, I was going to mention this in an upcoming vid at some point. I was going to do this. That Bruno Sammartino doesn't understand that the wrestling industry changes. And a lot of people still don't get it either. Now, I understand WWE has its problems. I understand it. The WWF and going into the WWE, it was a transitional change in itself. But honestly, things do change. And sure, WWE is not the best thing on offer for wrestling. You can go to Progress in London. You can go to the other British indie feds. You can watch Ring of Honor, which, to be honest, in your own words, NJ, is shit anyway. You then go to TNA, which has been slowly improving its product, just like WCW did when it upped the game in the mid-90s to take advantage of a down WWF. And they've obviously adapting social media to themselves because it's a good way of communicating. You know that. But again, we aren't taken care of. Because the WWE don't care about their audience enough. I understand that. I've mentioned it many, many times. Because they don't trust the audience to give them what they want, because Vince is a bit of a pious douchebag. But they didn't really care back in the old days either. Because there was no other way you could communicate. That's the thing. Back in the mid-90s, they could do what they wanted. Because the audience either had the choice of continuing or not. We now have a choice of voicing our opinion. And that's just it. Stars have come and gone, new ones take a while to build. But the industry goes through this issue. In the mid-90s, they had this same problem, where you had a few big guys, the others couldn't really get through because of dominance from the upper lot. And you people are probably going to say to me in the comment section that, oh, I'm wrong because they had people like Goldust and shit like that in the mid-90s. Well, that was a outrageous comedic gimmick. Let's say how Santino is a ridiculous comedic gimmick. You see, just because things seem different from the Attitude Era does not mean that it is different. It does not mean that the WWF is not the WWE that we see today. They are both the same. They are both the exact same because they have same things going for them. It is just a name change. It's just a name change, people. And I hate that a lot of people are saying, oh, I'm going to stop watching wrestling now. Because you didn't do that. I bet you didn't do that. If you were watching in the 90s and you thought WWE was shit, you found other ones, and then you came back. Because you get bitten by the bug, you never leave. This is the kind of thing that pisses me off about wrestling fans. I hate wrestling fans. I've mentioned it many times in my videos, that I hate some fans out there. I really do. Because some of them are fucking brain dead. They think, if it's shit, don't worry. Be an optimist. Because I may have watched last night and complained how crap it was, but I'm not going to just leave WWE in the gutter, am I? No. I just want to say that I'm going to watch SmackDown this week. I'm going to watch Raw next week. I'm then going to watch SmackDown the week after that, because I want to see what happens. Sure, it's not the best product we can ask for, but sometimes you got to live with it. I've been an Ipswich fan, watching us in the Championship, the First Division, for nearly 11 years. You honestly think I would want better? I do want better. But the fact is, that's what I have to live with. We live with this, and I can understand you want change. So do I. But honestly, things take time to change. We thought WWE was going on a small downward spiral last year, and then the summer of Punk came along, and that changed everything. Sure, we haven't had a moment like that. Sure, we're Brock Lesnar returning, but the change in our industry is happening right now, and it is a very desperate one. We haven't got the major stars who are everywhere. We haven't got every area of wrestling happening the way we want it to. We haven't got writers who can do the job. We haven't got a good owner of this company who can lead it in the right direction. But unfortunately for us as wrestling fans, we can't do shit about it. We just got to wait and see. And of course, a lot of you don't have a wait and see attitude. I get that. But honestly, if I had the ability to make some change, I would be the first one to say I would do it. But a lot of people, a lot of wrestling fans, just have to take a deep breath. Look at the bigger picture of the pressures WWE are under. They have to make... Of course, you've got to get out of the way Vince McMahon's idea of him wanting fame, because he's not a sport kid anymore. He's nearly 70, and he's got to get through his head that he can't do this. He can't just have the want for fame all the time. He's got to understand where the product comes first, because I think it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing to really analyse properly where WWE needs to go from here. Because it is at a point where, like it was in the 1990s, where people are switching off. People don't care. And it's worrying me. Because I'm a guy who will stick with wrestling for as long as I possibly can. I'm not gonna... I mean, honestly, like I said, if someone commits a Benoit-style tragedy and gets his career erased like Benoit has, I will probably stop watching wrestling forever because it's a stupid thing to do. You then think that people are just going to stop watching Raw because of one episode, or going to stop watching WWE because of one bad thing. Things happen. Ipswich can lose 5-0 to a shit team, and people will say they're never going to watch again, but they still will. And the WWF, WWE, fan era comparison argument, I find is stupid and just annoying. And everybody out there, I understand your problems with this company right now. I fully understand. I fully do. I understand you're pining for some things. You want them, you want them, you want them. But, come on. This is a man like Vince McMahon we're trying to talk to here. If he didn't care about his fans in the mid-90s, he probably wouldn't care about us now. And that's the point. But even with that, the industry is still the exact same. We go through this. Bad point, good point. Bad point, good point. Bad point, good point, bad point, good point. And it just keeps going. It's been that way since it started. It's going to continue that way. It's going to be that until the industry crumbles. And a lot of you have to get your heads out of your asses thinking wrestling has to be the epitome of perfection all the time. Sure, WWE is the #1 company, but it does not mean that you have to say, oh, this isn't the best thing ever, I'm going. If things aren't like what they used to be, I'm out of here. You've got to get that fucking attitude out of your brains. Because I don't have that attitude. I see what if I like it, I say I like it. If I don't like it, I say I don't like it. Just keep going. Because I had the same problem with wrestling, with football fans, with F1 fans, with any sport or any program on media of its kind. Music, film, television, sport, the arts, it is all the same in terms of fan response, and I'm growing slowly sick of it. When can you people just accept, sure, things are crap at times, but you just got to live through it? Hey, people had to live through the industrial shit of the 1800s, not knowing what the future would hold. It may have been crap to live in, but they still persevered. We are living in a time where WWE is going down the gutter that it hasn't experienced since the mid-90s. And we need to stick with it. We need to stay here and keep going. Because even if I am pissed off and I am angry about what I see on TV with WWE, it's stuck with me longer than practically everything else I've had in my life. So why should I stop now? Honestly, people, I will now recap the points I've mentioned many times before. We go through transitions of change. WWF and WWE are the same. Just because everything is different now does not mean you have the right to just completely bash it all the time. Sure, you will have opinions, but that's not how it goes. Things just happen, and you should just understand to either accept it or piss off. Okay? If you don't like it, go, walk. But you won't. You won't walk. I keep saying it to everybody. You try, you can't. Because the wrestling industry can fluctuate on the flip of a coin. All you need to do is miss 1 week of it and you will miss a big thing. We have shit shows. We have shit wrestlers. We have shit companies. Well, not if some people say otherwise. We have a lot of shit in our company. In our world we live in today. But we still live through. I just don't want to hear negativity 24/7. I don't want to hear that. And it's things like this. I'm trying to remain positive in a world where a lot of shit goes wrong. And in wrestling, gotta feel the same. So if you guys out there who really are so negative you can't honestly see positives through it, then I really have no time for you. Okay, Lawrence 85, you're one of those people who will feel that way. You're one of those people who just goes, oh, this is awful. Ugh. You just hate on everything. I understand you hate on things, but just live through it. Live through it in the hope something different will pop up. Something will make you want to be happy about what you're watching. Because even when you give up all hope, you shouldn't give up all hope. Because WWE will improve with time. Just accept it, everybody. Just accept it. Accept it. And just walk on. SmackDown next week. Go, watch it. Try and enjoy it if you can. Good for you. If you don't, just wait till the next show and see how that does you. Don't just give up. Because in wrestling you don't give up unless you really feel you need to. But in this, as fans, we shouldn't give up at all. Because without us, the industry would fall. You may not like everything, but just live with it. And guys, that's only 25 minutes of me ranting my head off. I want to make sure that you get my message here. This is not directed at NJ or anyone specifically. This is just a message to everybody. You've got to stick with WWE. You can't just throw it about because of one bad show. It's happened before, it'll happen again. Fluctuation of change will continue. Because just because the WWF is gone does not mean you have the right to just say to the world, where's wrestling gone? Downhill. Where's WWE gone? Where's the company I once knew gone? Downhill. It happens. It happens to everything. Everything goes downhill, then back. You just gotta hope it changes and you are there to experience the better. I've been Cream Crazy. You guys have been people watching. And this big, fat, juicy, medium rare cooked rant is now over. And if I hear any major, gigantic discrepancies arguing with my points down in the comment section, you be better hoping that you give me something I can really fire back at it. Because I don't want to be spat hate on, okay? Cheers.